Okay, so that was letting. Now, just to finish off this video, there's a few last things I want to discuss, and they're all surrounding actual paragraphs of text. So here, I'm going to go ahead and open up this text box a little bit more, give us some more room to work with. And the first thing I need to do personally is lower my point size, so we're not just looking at an obnoxiously huge paragraph. And first I need to get us some text in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and use this option that's built into Adobe InDesign called filling with placeholder text. So I'm going to fill this text box with what's really known as lorem ipsum in the industry. You're going to hear both of those words used exchangeably. Basically, placeholder text and lorem ipsum are the same thing. And really what the definition of this is, more or less, it's just a bunch of gibberish that we designers use to kind of give us a visual representation of what this page is going to look like when there's actual text in a given area. So if you're working on the first couple of drafts for a client or just an initial mock-up, and they're not quite sure what they want the text to be in a given section, you can go ahead and give yourself an idea of what it's going to look like when the piece is finished simply by using lorem ipsum. And once again, you saw how quick that was for me to apply that. So it's really effective when you're just trying to get a good visual identifier of what a given area is going to look like when text is actually applied to it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first thing I want to talk about when we're dealing with bodies of text is the rag side. So you're going to see, let me go ahead and get a little bit closer in here for us. The left side of this paragraph is all perfectly flush, right? Everything's resting on that line very evenly. And on the right side, there's a lot of variation. There's a lot of fluctuation going on between each line of type. That is called your rag side. And typically, you're only going to really hear this get brought up when that side is just way too raggy. So I'm going to go ahead and make the situation a little bit worse here, because really the way it came out right out of the box doesn't look too bad to me personally. So here, we're going to go ahead and make this rag situation much worse. There we go. You already saw in a few clicks of enter, that paragraph became much more dispersed. There's a lot more fluctuation going on in this paragraph that we have going. And it just really doesn't look all that neat, all that clean. It's kind of almost difficult to follow and read lines, especially with random words in here like that. So here, I'm going to go ahead and reverse the changes that we just made. And that would be effectively cleaning up the rag side of that paragraph. So that's rags. Now, the last two things I want to discuss, where tracking and kerning, they're all kind of, there isn't much of a rhyme or reason or really a strict definition of how to use them. It's your best judgment as a designer on how you're going to want to use it. For the next two things I discuss, it really is a firm set rule that you never want them to show up in your documents. So let me go ahead and show you what I mean. The two things that you never want to have in your documents are widows and orphans. So here is what a widow is. It is effectively one word at the bottom of a given paragraph that's supposed to be read in the same paragraph, but it's on a line all by itself. And again, it's just one word on the line all by itself. That is called a widow, and that is really just unacceptable in your given selection of type. Basically, it just looks kind of unfinished when it's said and done in a finished production piece. And it's just kind of difficult to read as a viewer. So go ahead and just get rid of it. Now, if I had two words, it's not considered a widow. I still wouldn't consider that an ideal resting point for this paragraph. But you would be able to get away with it if you absolutely had to. It wouldn't be considered a widow. It's just when you have one word resting on the line all by itself. That's a widow. Never let them show up in your given finished piece. Please, I beg you. It's honestly hard for me to just sit there and look at it, let alone actually have that in a finished print file. So please avoid widows at all costs. Now, orphan is basically the exact opposite of what a widow is. Where a widow is at the bottom of a paragraph, an orphan is one word at the top of a paragraph and it's still being read as all one area of text, but it's on a line all by itself. That is called an orphan, and again, please avoid them at all costs. Especially orphans, I find them even worse than widows, you know? It's like if that was a title to your selection, that's all fine and dandy, but it's not. That's supposed to be read as one body of text. And why would you want to have one word written at the top of that selection on a line all by itself? It just looks unnatural to read it with the rest of your selection. Go ahead and just get rid of them, please, I beg you. That already feels much better to have it just written out a correct way. So please avoid widows and orphans. We're going to make the world a better place avoiding them. And that's about as much as I wanted to discuss in this conversation about typographic terms. So in our next video, we're going to go ahead and be discussing typefaces versus fonts. So it's another definition talk, but this one's a little bit more open-ended, and really it's kind of a large discussion point in the design community. So it's going to be a great video for us to discuss. And until then, see you guys next time.